All
This
right.
meeting is being recorded.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here today. We're so excited for another Ask a Champion webinar that we're able to host with Avery Blanchard, who's here representing the United States, one of our former US champions. So Avery, thank you so much for being here with us to tell us about your experience at the Adobe National Championship. Before we dive in, why don't we just do a quick introduction into you? So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you're currently doing.
Well, my name is Avery. I'm from New Jersey. Right now, I am a college student at a community college. And yeah, I'm in my first semester, just trying to get through all my gen eds, and then I can start getting into my graphic design classes.
Fabulous. And we had you very recently competing in the Adobe Championship. You just competed this last summer. So tell us, let's take a little bit of a journey with you. How did you first get involved in Adobe certification?
So my first experience was in high school. Junior year, I went to a vocational school, and it was a requirement for that class that we got certified in at least one. But my teacher really wanted to push us for three. So I ended up becoming certified by the time I graduated in Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign.
So you hit all the major ones. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this in one of our meetings that you used all of those as part of the Adobe competition. So I'm excited to delve a little bit more into that. But how did you decide after you earned your certifications that you wanted to take part in the Adobe Championship?
My teacher, I'm not sure if it was my principal who had asked him, but my teacher wanted us all to just submit something because he's always very open about us just trying things, submitting resumes and job applications. And so it's just one of those things where he's like, just see what happens and, try something new.
So tell us a little bit about the application process. What project did you decide to submit? How did you decide which one you wanted to enter?
The project that I submitted was a school assignment. We had to create a poster for awareness, and so I chose animal cruelty. And so I did a Photoshop piece of like a circus, like a bear in the circus. And I just felt like it showed how well I know the software with everything that I used a part of it. So that's how I decided, like, just basically whatever I was most proud of, that's what I chose to submit.
I love that even though you had certifications in all three, you chose a piece that was really near and dear to your heart, that you felt communicated your skills and communicated your passion for design. So I think that that's really special and something that a lot of our students come across, like an issue that they come across of what do I submit? How do I know if it's good enough? But just feeling that emotional connection to the piece, I think really plays a big part of that.
Mhm.
And I know that we talked about in preparing for the competition, there was a lot of, you've done a lot of design work outside of class as well. So tell us a little bit about how you polish your skills. What did you do to prepare going into the competition?
For the competition, I basically just did what I normally do, and people who reach out to me, I try to help them, like friends, family. I try to help anyone that I can with design work that they have, and it really just it helps that it's always a unique project. I've done postcards for people and logos and business cards, so I'm always just practicing in different softwares. So that definitely helped me prepare for it.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Designing with some parameters in mind, because it's one thing to create like a piece of art, which is beautiful and it's a great opportunity to practice your skills, but being able to have a real world client is something that's very different than just creating a piece for yourself. So how do you feel like that design work for other people helped prepare you for the competition?
I think definitely thinking of your client and your audience is the most important. I've designed flyers for schools, and then I've designed my sister's wedding invitations, and that's completely two different audiences. So I think it's just understanding who you're designing for.
Mm.
And it also helps that I'm very observant. And so I kind of just understand what people are looking for in
Yeah,
design.
and being able to deduce what people need, what the design, what the feel should be like. I think that's a really huge part of graphic design. And
Mhm.
I know going into the competition, obviously you did very well. You took first place in the United States going into the World Championship. So let's start with US Nationals. Tell us about your experience. What was that like? How did you feel going into it?
It was definitely very, it felt very foreign going into it. I had no idea what to expect. The only competitions I've ever done was Skills USA, and that was through my school.
Mm-hmm.
So to be completely alone in this, because I had already graduated at that point, it was nerve-wracking. I was trying to do as much research as I could into the competition, and it was very hard to kind of make that final decision. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try it. Um, and I didn't realize how big it was either. And I don't think my parents did either, because afterwards my dad kept on saying, like, I did not realize there was actual like money behind this. And I was like, yeah, it's an actual thing. But yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. But once I got there, I immediately latched on to someone. There's a party, I think the first night,
Mm-hmm.
and the first girl I found, I sat at her table and I was like, we're gonna be best friends now this entire thing. Because I had nobody else. So
Well, how do you feel like that energy, kind of being able to connect with other students, do you feel like that was helpful, or was
mm,
that hard then going up to compete against them in the competition that next day?
I think it was helpful. I actually had a harder time knowing who Adobe was, because there was a lot of Microsoft kids there.
Hmm.
And actually the girl that I befriended was Microsoft. So
Okay.
there was no hardship there. And even the day of the competition when we were lined up, um, I really felt like I was like in a group of like my people, because we were all making jokes about like Illustrator and Photoshop, and like that's not normally something I can do with like my friends at home because they don't
Hmm.
understand it.
Hmm.
So it didn't feel like competition. It felt like I was meeting people who like understood me.
I
So
really like that. And I like the idea of being able to make friends and that it's like almost a collaborative effort. Even though you're competing individually, there's that opportunity to make friendships and connect with people from different states that you might never have met otherwise.
mhm.
Um, I know that you were surprised when you won first place in US Nationals. So tell us what the award ceremony was like. What were you expecting? And how did you feel kind of coming away knowing that you just won first place?
Mm. I've never really won anything like that. So I'm not used to like, I kind of just went into it like, this is just going to be a thing. I'm just going to sit down and see what happens. And if I don't even place, then, I'm just going to walk away and be happy that I experienced it. Um, I definitely wasn't expecting it. I don't know if you noticed, but I was sat all the way in the back of the room. Like, I was as far away from the stage as I could have been. And yeah, it was just a really big shock. And I feel like it gave a lot of like fire to how I work now, because
Mm.
I have something that I want to go above now and achieve more and keep going.
I love that. And I know that you carried that fire with you into the World Championship. So did you feel like you were more prepared going into the World Championship? Were you nervous still? What was that experience like for you?
I honestly wish, I mean, I remember after winning the national champions
Mm.
that I told myself that I wasn't gonna get a big head and a big ego, and I was gonna go into it just like I did the first one. But I definitely think you have to go into the second one with the same amount of like unsureness, because if
Mm.
you get too comfortable, I felt like I was kind of maybe too comfortable. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think the second time around was a great experience for meeting more people than the
Yeah.
first time. Um, Everybody was so nice. There was just so many gifts going around, and yeah, I think the second time was definitely more about meeting people for me than competing.
Yeah. What was that like meeting students from other countries then who had similar interests? Did you feel like you guys connected in the same way?
For sure. I think it felt like everyone was so professional. There were a lot of business cards and introductions, and I had one guy add me on LinkedIn, and it's just interesting to see the level that a lot of people are at, and it makes me want to achieve that level of professionalism. So, yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of, I mean, because you have everyone from 13 to 22, right? So you have people that are already in college against people who are still in high school. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for connection, but then also that professional networking that you mentioned. I think that's a really big part of it. But I'm
Mhm.
curious, now that you've been to two, right? You competed at US and World. What was your favorite part of the competition experience overall?
I mean, I might be biased as a Disney person, but that full day at Disney was just so much fun, and it was for some weird reason, all of us Adobe girls, and then also, I believe 2 of the Microsoft girls joined us, and just for the entire day, we just walked around together and had a really good time. So that was really fun.
Oh, that's really special. I think that opportunity to go outside of your shell and to meet people that you wouldn't meet otherwise, because I mean, you're all from different states. Most
Mhm,
of them didn't know each other going into it. I think that that's really special to be able to have that baseline level of interest and connection. And I know that
mhm.
that's a huge part of what makes the competition so exciting. But now that you've completed the competition and you're moving forward in your education and career, I know that that's kind of looking back into the rearview mirror. What's ahead of you? How do you feel like you're going to pursue your education and your career differently now that you have competed in the competition?
Um, I am right now I'm going to a 2-year school. I definitely hope to transfer to a 4-year. I feel like going to Adobe has showed me that I really enjoy advertising design
Mm.
and working with a client and making something that's going to go out into the public and, advertise something. So I looked into a really cool program at another, like a 4-year school that does a lot of advertising. And yeah, it's inspired me too to try to build my resume more and find more ways of having not just certification but experience. And yeah, it's a great resume builder to have certification on there.
Have you been able to do any design work since competing in the competition and been able to talk to people about your experience?
My I've kind of because I'm going to like general ed classes right
Mm.
now. Not really. The only clients that I've had have been like friends and family
Mm-hmm.
since then. Um, but I am president of my school's graphic design club, and a lot of the people who have joined my club are not experienced in graphic design at all, and I really just want to help them out with the software and helping them understand that industry. So it's definitely useful right now.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, there's a couple different layers that come with it. It's the insight into what you really enjoy, because I think design is such a broad field. There's so many different areas that you could pursue with that. But being able to say, I've had this experience of what it's actually like to work in a real world design scenario
Mhm.
is enlightening, right? Because that's not for everyone. Sometimes people are going to walk away from that and say, that's not the type of design I'm really interested in. But being able to go to the competition and see like this is where I really thrive is super helpful for pursuing your future career, because now you have a little bit of a window into what it's like, and that that's what you're interested in and what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I like that you mentioned as well the design club. I know that that's something that we've talked about previously as well as one of those additional opportunities that have opened up to you because of your certification. So tell us a little bit more about the design club and how your certifications have helped you as you've kind of been president, mentoring a lot of these other students.
Mhm. When I first joined my school, I was like, I need to join the graphic design club. That's like first thing on the list. And I reached out to the advisor of the club and I said, like, I'm certified and I really just want to join your club. And she said, well, actually, we don't have a president this semester. And so I think that definitely helped me
Mm-hmm.
out with having those certifications. And I'm also able to help people with Photoshop because we actually are right now open to commissions for other clubs. And so I'm helping also with the championship. We had spoken to a real client.
Hmm.
And so I know what level of professionalism to have when speaking to someone and what kind of questions to ask. And so we've been working with my school's other clubs to help make logos and flyers for them. So,
Well, and what a huge opportunity, right, to expand your portfolio while you're still in school. I think one of the biggest issues for a lot of student designers is that they don't have the opportunity to do design work and bolster their resume enough to be able to land that first job out of college or out of high school. And so what an awesome opportunity to use your skills that you've already learned to be able to kind of step into that space. And I
mhm,
know you also mentioned that you have competed in Skills USA, but you talked about being able to go back and judge Skills
mhm.
USA competition now that you've competed and earned your certification. So tell us a little bit about that.
So my teacher from high school reached out to me after I won, and he brought up the offer of judging a Skills USA competition. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm very excited if and when it does,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll be at a new point where I can oversee it and
Mm-hmm.
see how other people work. Like I like to take every opportunity to watch people my age or younger or older and how they work so that I can learn from them. So yeah, that's what I'm most excited about. Is just see a lot of
Well,
students
yeah,
working.
I love that. And being able to glean a little bit from their approach or their design perspective. Tell us what that was like. I'm going to go back to the competition a little bit now. Tell us
Mhm.
what that was like at the competition, because you have people from different states and even different countries who approach design, I think, very differently. Did you have a chance to kind of collaborate with some of the competitors about their design approach?
Definitely the second time around, I think um after competing, there wasn't much conversation about the process, but
Mm,
the for nationals, we weren't supposed to talk about it during lunch and we didn't talk about like what we were doing specifically, but it was fun to hear just how everybody was going through their own process of some people were still sketching on paper
yeah.
and other people just jump right into it, and even afterwards to see all the different approaches, and how I can't remember who, but somebody drew their entire poster. Like there's just so many different levels
Yeah.
of approach, and then some people will take, like snippets from photos or from work that was given to us.
Hmm.
So yeah, to see all
So
that
tell us
different.
how you approached it. You were creating a poster at
Mhm.
Nationals for a nonprofit client. Did you decide to sketch on paper first, or you just dive right into it? What's your design approach when you go into something like that?
I am definitely I try to be the sketcher, but I always fail. I know like people say you should do a couple sketches because your first one's never your best idea, but for me, I only ever come up with one idea on paper at least. And then it's not till I get onto the computer that I start to edit it and move it around, which is
Mm,
why I love something like Adobe so much, is nothing is set in stone.
mhm.
And so a lot of it was just like, here's a base on paper, there's one, and then moving it to the computer and making that so much better than what it was before. And taking advantage of every single material, like that's my biggest tip because they gave us like clip art almost of or vector files of the characters, but then they
Mhm.
also gave us videos, and I saw multiple people. We were all like using the video, um,
For
and
like a printed, right? Like a 2D
yeah,
design. Right.
mhm. Yeah, we were screenshotting the videos for backgrounds because we didn't have any backgrounds. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I like that you can use everything that's available to you. Do you feel like that's something that you've always done in your design, or that, when you're given a limited number of resources that you said, I need to be able to pull in more to be able to create what I am looking for?
Mhm. I find that just yeah, I mean, you never really have just one option. Like
Yeah.
there's always ways to mix something around, change colors, and that's something I learned even at Skills USA. They wanted us to create a postcard and they gave us a photo, and you could just take the photo and put it in the background, or you could change the colors and take out some, like take a person from the background and
Hmm.
use that. there's always ways, especially with like something like Photoshop, you
Yeah.
can always mix stuff around.
So tell me, when you were going through your design, both at US Nationals and at the World Championship, did you find that you just used one program, or did you kind of dive into, since you were certified in all three, did you use all three in creating your design, and which do you feel like was the most helpful?
The nationals, I definitely used all three, which worked out because it was more of a cartoon
Mm-hmm.
concept. I was able to use Photoshop for the screenshots
Mm-hmm.
and then use Illustrator. So I used all three. For the QR code, I used InDesign. The second time around, I definitely wish I used all three. I think I stuck to Photoshop pretty much. Um, I think it's just so overwhelming when you're like that
Yeah.
high of a level that you're just like, you kind of panic and you stick to what you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I could definitely do better is, don't panic and use like everything, you
Yeah,
know.
well, to your point earlier, right, that it's using a lot of the different vector file options, using a lot of the different iterations of the design, but then
Mhm.
also using the technology that you have available to you. I know it, a lot of students take a different approach. There's not necessarily a right way or a wrong way, but being able to use multiple platforms to create one piece, I think there's a lot of power that comes with that.
Mhm.
And a lot of what you said is some great advice for students who are looking to compete, but I wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper. So what advice would you share with students who are listening, who want to compete in the competition but maybe aren't so sure? What would
Mhm.
you share with them?
So I struggle with social anxiety, and I definitely found that almost every step of the process before the championship and even during, there's always going to be a roadblock, and there's
Mhm.
always something that tells you like maybe I should stop now and turn back and go back to my safe zone.
Mhm.
Um, but from what I've learned is the more you push yourself, there actually can be opportunities that open up for you. And if I had originally told my teacher I'm too nervous. I don't want to go. I'm not even going to submit a project. I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. So that's my biggest advice is just, stop saying no and just start like, keep going and keep trying new things.
I love that. And do you feel like the competition was helpful in helping you overcome some of that social anxiety, or what was that experience like, kind of having to push past that barrier, talking to people that you didn't know?
The second competition, the party that we had, I was with Salma and
Mhm.
she forced me to go onto the dance floor, and that is something I never thought I would do. So I think being around so many different people really pushes you out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and it definitely helps. I feel a lot more confident now. And it's also shown me that I can connect with people. I've always had a hard time connecting, and
Mhm.
I realize that's just the people that I've surrounded myself with. And when you can pick like your crowd, like you can
Mhm.
actually be very successful in connecting with people.
I like that, that it's not just lessons and experiences that help you professionally, but also that you've had so many experiences that have helped you personally. I think there's
Mhm.
a lot of students who maybe feel nervous because of those personal reasons, whether it's lack of confidence or some of that anxiety, but there's a lot of power that comes in seeing those barriers and saying, you know what, I can do it, and
Mhm.
feeling empowered, whether it's within yourself or from your teachers, being able to push past that and have a really special experience. So we're really glad that we got to be a part of that with you. I think that's wonderful. Any final thoughts that you want to share with those who are listening?
Um, Definitely apply and see. If you haven't already, see, and also put your email in correctly because I did a typo and I ended up getting a call from Dominique like a month later that I got in. Didn't even realize. So be careful with that too.
Okay, correct email and make sure that you enter. I think that those are good pieces of advice. And we hope to see those who are watching or who are watching the recording enter our competition. We know that we have one last week before our fall qualifier ends. So for those who want a little bit of peace of mind going into the holidays, knowing that you already earned your invitation, we'd definitely recommend that you do that. I'm going to go ahead and drop into the chat a link for those who don't know how to enter. So it's very simple. Students just need to upload an original project, to Avery's point that she mentioned earlier. So all you need to do is upload a project, both the source files and the final design. So let me just pull the link here really quickly so that we can make sure that those who are watching are able to enter. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. We have loved being able to chat more with you, and I hope to see everyone here in the new year, and we hope to see a lot of you entering projects. We are very excited to be able to decide on the winners of our fall qualifiers. So thank you so much, Avery. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you for having me.